And a very, very warm welcome to the second webinar on workforce nutrition, improving access. And this is organized by Ecociate Consultants in association with our valued partners, Welthungerhilfe, Birla Institute of Management Technology, Tanager International, and Odisha Livelihood Mission. Ecociate is, as you all know, is a research and consulting firm working in the area of sustainable growth and development in both the development sector and the private sector. And today, practically, we are honored to have a very, very distinguished panel of speakers and august audience who have joined from different places across India and abroad, as you can see. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before the start of the session, I would kindly request all the august audience to raise your questions in the Q&A option. And I will be kind of compiling the questions and, I'll raise them to the panel speakers at the end of the discussion for you. So right now, let me introduce our technical anchor for this session, Mr. Basant Kar. Mr. Basant Kar is also, is a very, very well-known person in the nutrition domain for his outstanding contribution to nutrition and poverty eradication thoughts. He was awarded the Global Transform Nutrition Champion in 2016, and very recently in 2019, he was again awarded with the very coveted and prestigious Global Nutrition Leadership Award. So it's a pleasure to have you and other people on the board, Mr. Basant Kar.
Thank you so much, Nirmalya. It is both an honor and a pleasure to be part of this important webinar. And I have many memories, but first I should acknowledge and appreciate the role played by Ecociate in pioneering that this at least in this region, South Asia and Asia region. So thank you so much, Saroj and Kirti, for pioneering this. Workforce nutrition is very important, although it is new, but it is very important. And all of us know that good nutrition is good life, and nutrition has a power to supercharge demographic dividend, and it can also increase growth, productivity, and build human capital potential. Workforce nutrition has a special role in increasing productivity, increasing growth, and increasing demographic dividend, and ultimately increasing the GDP, gross domestic product. Incidentally, wherever such program has been initiated in industries, it has reduced absenteeism, it has reduced health expenditure, and it has many other benefits. And whenever we are speaking about workforce nutrition, we are speaking a broad range of workforce nutrition initiatives. And let me tell you that whenever workforce nutrition also includes the initiatives related to mother and children. So children cannot be separated. Workforce nutrition has a multi-dimensional issues. It covers both formal and informal sectors. It covers both organized and unorganized sectors. I am very happy to introduce to my eminent panel members who have prolific background and who have earned name and fame not only in their own country but across the globe. We have with us Christina. She's from GAIN. I'll briefly introduce her also before I tell her to speak. We have Dr. Shakuntala. She's from World Fish. We have Mr. Rajiv. He is from Ajim Premji Philanthropic Initiative. We have Devashish Mahapatra. He is a senior head of nutrition from Odisha Livelihood Mission, which is a government of Odisha initiative. So he will share his perspective. We have JVG Krishnamurthy from Tanager, and he will also share about his perspective related to farm sector. But let me briefly highlight about their prolific background. Christina is a senior technical specialist from GAIN International, and she comes with her experience in South Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Welcome, Christina. Thank you so much for being here. We have Dr. Shakuntala. Personally, I know her when I was in Bangladesh. Shakuntala is the research program leader for value chain and nutrition at World Fish Station in Malaysia. She comes with a research background. She comes with also policy and program background. Welcome, Dr. Shakuntala. Your contribution is very, very valued and important. Rajiv is the senior project manager from Ajim Premji Philanthropic Initiative. You know that Ajim Premji Philanthropic Initiative has initiated a very big nutrition program and also livelihood program in partnership with government of Odisha. So Rajiv will share some of his insights. Then Devasis is closely working with the government of Odisha, and Odisha Livelihood Mission has spearheaded many such pioneering initiatives, and they received an award last year. So Devasis will speak about his experience working with the public sector on workforce nutrition. Welcome, Mr. Devasis. We have JBG Krishnamurthy. He is the networking and ecosystem development head from Tanager. And Krishnamurthy has worked in the areas of public health development projects. He is currently engaged in networking and ecosystem development in his organization. And he will speak about farmer. So this is another area which will be very, very important for the people to know about how workforce nutrition also includes smallholder farmers. And we have with us a very important person, Saroj Kumar Mahanta. He is the co-founder and director of Ecociate. And Saroj is the brain behind for this along with Kirti. So thank you so much, Saroj, and you are most welcome. You will share your experience, how it has happened in a tea garden. So now I would request Christina to share her thoughts and perspectives and insights. And definitely it will be evidence-based, and being with GAIN, you have pioneered that in many places, many areas. Christina.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Carr, for the nice introduction, and thank you to Ecociate and partners for welcoming GAIN to this very interesting webinar. I'm looking forward to being on the panel with everyone. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking a little bit about trying to define maybe the area of workforce nutrition. This is something that GAIN's been working on for some time. And then spend a little bit of time talking about a few programs that we're involved with, including with Ecociate on tea plantations in India. And conclude with a bit of a call to action or some information about how we can come together, those who are interested in this area, and move forward this agenda. So I think Mr. Carr eloquently spoke about why it's important that we address workers' nutrition, but this is a little bit more of a pathway around it. We do know that I'm sure you're all quite aware that malnutrition is pervasive. It affects 1 in 3 people around the world, regardless of economic status, across all worker types. This is in the form of undernutrition, overnutrition, as well as concurrently often micronutrient deficiencies. We also know that a vast majority of the world does come to work. They spend 1/3 of their time at work. And so the workplace and the work environment is a good entry point to reach workers and address issues around nutrition. We know that issues of short-term undernutrition, inadequate energy, low blood sugar levels, as well as long-term poor diets in the form of micronutrient deficiencies and others, all have effects on an individual's capacity to work. This is both physical and cognitive. And this has implications on an individual's ability to, first of all, be healthy, but also on their livelihood, and in terms of earnings, in terms of household income, and at an aggregate level towards farm level income, business level, and as mentioned before, at the level of the country in terms of GDP. So last year, GAIN conducted a review of the literature on the types of programs that employers are implementing to address the nutrition of workers. And based on the evidence, they basically fell into 4 categories, and I'll describe them a little bit. There are other types of programs like physical activity, crop diversification, which have tried to touch on nutrition, but we felt that these 4 are the ones that really have led to the most direct evidence around impacts on individuals, on nutrition impacts for individuals. So the first is around the provision or the improved access to healthy foods in the work environment. This can be anything from a canteen to a fair price shop to a vending machine, depending on the work context. The second is around nutrition education or behavior change, providing information to workers on what is good nutrition and why is it important. The third area which has shown impact is providing health checks to workers in their work environment, looking at things like BMI, anemia status, cholesterol, diabetes risks, and then providing counseling to workers on what they can do to address any issues that they might have. And then the fourth area is around providing a breastfeeding-friendly work environment for women who are returning to work, hopefully with a 6-month maternity leave policy to enable exclusive breastfeeding, but also allowing for lactation rooms and breaks and flexible working hours so that women can successfully continue to breastfeed up until 2 years. And when you look at all of these in combination, they're more powerful. Now, not all of these workforce implementation areas are relevant in all work contexts, but in as much as possible, we would encourage employers to adopt as many as possible. And the evidence does show, I encourage you all to look at the briefs that we've developed, but the evidence does show that there are impacts on not only a healthier workforce, but also lower rates of absenteeism, presenteeism, which is being present at work and your ability to engage and be productive, more satisfied workers, higher productivity, and then some have been able to show returns on investment. And I would think, I think that the breastfeeding, research around breastfeeding support at work is probably the most rigorous data, the most rigorously applied across multiple contexts. So I want to speak a little bit about a couple of the programs that GAIN has been involved with in showing the diversity, I guess, in workplace environments and worker types. One of our programs is in Bangladesh, in the garment factories, and we have been working with ICDDRB helped us do an evaluation, and we were working with the Her Health BSR program as well, where we provided iron folic acid tablets to women, female garment workers of reproductive age, as well as peer education around nutrition and other topics. So on the right-hand side of the graph, you can see that with those intervention compared to a control group, there was a reduction in anemia of around 12%. I think this is over 6 or 12 months. When we added on top of that the provision of a midday meal that the factories were already providing, but including iron-fortified rice, as well as more of a balanced meal with vegetables, dairy products, etc., we were able to see a decrease in anemia prevalence by 33%, which was quite compelling, and the program continues. Another context in which we work is with tea farmers, and we work in Kenya, India, and Malawi, and I think Suraj will speak a little bit to the work that Ecociate is involved helping us here. But this really is more focused on behavior change communication and education. And with Ecociate, we're trying to increase the access to healthy foods on the estates for estate workers. And through these intensive behavior change approaches, we were able to see improvements in the diversity of diets, as well as improved hand washing practices. And since this evaluation came out, which was done with the Sustainable Trade Initiative and Unilever, we have been able to encourage around 7 other tea companies to join the program and to reach more workers in more countries. And I just wanted to conclude just to mention to everyone that we have been working in the past 6 months to a year with the Consumer Goods Forum to develop a workforce nutrition alliance. And the idea here is to bring together all partners who are interested in this area, who have experience in this area, and can share lessons learned, advocate for the importance of workforce nutrition, and help employers to implement programs. We have been doing this as a part of the Nutrition for Growth efforts and the Nutrition for Growth Summit, which will happen next year in Tokyo, trying to include or trying to encourage employers from not only the private sector but also the public sector to make nutrition commitments. And one of the commitment areas is around workforce nutrition. So you can find us online under Workforce Nutrition Alliance, and please do reach out if you're interested, and I'm happy to take any questions about the Alliance as well or anything else. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kristen. I think I saw one comment from a participant, very well articulated presentation. So thank you again. So you have received a very, very good rating from the audience. So you should be happy.
Thank you.
I think you spoke very well about the workforce nutrition and global evidences, and specifically reducing anemia by 33% is extraordinarily, and it is a phenomenal job. And you spoke about breastfeeding, you spoke about maternity leave, which how workforce nutrition has also direct correlation, how it has got some incidental outcome into those areas. So that is a very, very important for the audience to know. You spoke about the product, you spoke about the platform like Workforce Nutrition Alliance, which I think would be a great learning opportunity for many, many other people. Before I go to national level experience, I would request our eminent speaker, Dr. Shakuntala. She will share her experience in many countries, including India. So we would love to hear, and specifically workforce nutrition for fish farmers and fishery sector is quite new to many people, many of us. And I think people will very, very well, it will be well received, and people will learn from that how important it is. Over to Dr. Shakuntala.
Thank you so much for inviting me to share some of the experience we have in working with fish. I've called the topic Nourishing Millions in India and the Potential of the Fishery Sector. This is a relatively new area in which people are beginning to work, in that when you talk about nourishment, the fishery sector and fish is a bit overlooked by many nations, and especially in India, there is now a growing interest in looking at the fishery sector as a potential both for improving livelihoods, incomes, and the food and nutrition security of people. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So WorldFish has worked quite a lot in fish producing countries, and we've done quite a lot of work in Bangladesh, in countries in Africa with the Great Lakes, where fish is an important part of the diet, in the Pacific and in South Asia, Bangladesh especially, and Cambodia. When we started working in India, there were many who would ask us, but why would you focus on fish in India? That's not a very important food group in India. But that is not so. If you look at this figure, which has been developed by the national government of India, there's quite a lot of people in India who work within the fishery sector, and quite a lot who also have fish as part of the diet. I've called my presentation Nourishing Millions, because if you will just take the population groups of West Bengal, Odisha, and Assam, just to take three, not even taking the South India, then there are many, many millions of people who depend on fish, as I said, for both livelihoods and income, but certainly as an integral part of their nutrition. The issue is for many, especially the poor and vulnerable, that the frequency of consumption and the amounts that are consumed are very, very low. And if you want to have a contribution towards better nutrition and better health, the consumption must be higher. Next slide, please. So if we would look at what is it, the contribution of fish and other aquatic foods to nutrition. What many do not know is that they talk about that fish is talked about as a source of protein. But here I want to focus and highlight the importance of fish as contributing towards essential micronutrients. So if you look at vitamin A, animal source foods, including fish, has the only preformed source of vitamin A as retinol. And in addition, fish has a very highly bioavailable source of vitamin A in the form of dehydroretinol, and that's only for fish. Vitamin B12, which is extremely important for brain development and cognition. Animal source foods, including fish, are the only dietary source of B12. Likewise, so you have many other multiple micronutrients, including iron and zinc and calcium and selenium and iodine, many of which in population groups of India are in deficiencies. Next slide, please. Christina alluded to the malnutrition rates in South Asia. And if we would just look at these 4 countries, India, Nepal, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, we can see, of course, with the population size that India has, you have large numbers of undernourished children. Likewise, children who are stunted, meaning their growth is too low for their age, and women in the reproductive age who suffer from anemia. So if we would look back to the slide I just showed about the contribution of micronutrients and the contribution that fish can make in diets, then you have the potential for the fishery sector for addressing some of the micronutrients and malnutrition issues that are facing South Asia, including India. Next slide, please. There have been some studies, not many, but few mega studies across nations that look at the effect of fish on different aspects of growth and development, nutrition and health. And the evidence from these meta-analyses show that fish in diets can improve brain development and cognition, reduces mortality and morbidity, is associated with reduced stunting in children, and in studies, and this is not a mega-analysis, this is only in this study is only from the United States. It is associated with long-term weight loss in adults. And we know now, if we look we know now, in India, as in many countries, there's a pandemic of overweight and obesity. And we've seen this and heard about this, for example, with respect to the COVID-19 crisis that we now face. So increased fish, increased fish consumption would contribute to better growth and development in children, a well-nourished and healthy adolescents and adults. And this is important, and again related to the COVID-19 crisis we face now, with that a well-nourished adult population and a well-nourished elderly population, where you can boost the immune systems, would have an effect on people, on the way they react to disease as COVID-19. And on the other hand, you also have a better school performance in children, better work performance, and the intergenerational benefits, meaning that a well-nourished child grows to become a well-nourished adult, a well-nourished woman gives birth to a well-nourished child, and thereby having a nourished nations and using fish to contribute to nourishing nations would lead to the overall development of a nation, both in terms of its population, but also in terms of its economy. Next slide, please. So now I want to present some of the approaches that we've used in order to increase fish consumption. And we focused on the first 1,000 days of life in pregnant and lactating women and in children. And most of this work stems from what we've done in Bangladesh. So we know that fish is a perishable item. We also know that fish takes time to both clean and to prepare. So we are looking for ways of having tasty, well-accepted products which are convenient to use. And one of the products we have quite a lot of success with is developing a fish chutney for pregnant and lactated women. And it's quite a simple product in that it builds on the mango chutney, and with removing the mango and using dried small fish instead, where you can have a chutney that can be used as a condiment it's ready to eat, and you can use it as a condiment in the main meal of women. And the calculations show that a heaped tablespoon of chutney will give you a tremendous boost in micronutrients contribution, as well as energy and essential fatty acids from the oil in the chutney. Next slide, please. In Cambodia, we've worked with the government of Cambodia and UNICEF, and building on, again, a convenient product and using the fish from the rice field fisheries. A private company whom we partner with has received a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they are developing fish powder products for malnourished children to be used by UNICEF and by the government of Cambodia. And what has been important in this journey is that UNICEF has agreed that milk powder in products for treatment of malnourished children can be replaced 100% with fish powder based on the attributes of fish and the contribution of fish to multiple micronutrients. Next slide, please. The fish powder, we have promoted fish powder in many countries across the countries in where we work, in Africa, in Asia, and the Pacific. And this is again based on small fish, which are more affordable than big fish, small fish having diverse micronutrients, and drying these and making it into a fish powder, which has a shelf life of over 6 months. And it's already roasted, so you can add it to the complementary foods of children and to the foods, or to the family foods. So it's a product that can improve the nutritional contribution to the diets of different population groups. In Odisha, we've started to work with the state government of Odisha. Now, we've been working with them now for the last 3 years. And many of the approaches that we have used in Bangladesh, in Cambodia, in Myanmar, in some of the African countries, we are now using in Odisha. And what has been really very interesting in Odisha is that we have been able to work with the government across the food systems. So we are working within the production systems of pond polyculture, wetlands, and very interestingly, with self-help women's group who are using the village tanks to produce fish, both large fish for sale and small fish, which they use for consumption. And again, what has been extremely interesting in Odisha is that we very quickly were able to establish a collaboration across different sectors, with the fisheries sector and with the health and nutrition sector and the women's development sector. So the fish that's being produced, and also from the coastal areas, from the captive fisheries, are now being used for drying, for producing safe dried fish, which are used in the Angawati centers for mother and children, and also in schools for feeding children. We haven't yet done any efficacy studies to see what effects this has on school performance or on work performance. That we hope to do in the future. But we know from the attributes of fish and the nutrient composition of the fish, we know that how increased consumption of fish can also increase can improve the nutritional status of those who consume fish. But interestingly, with the women's self-help groups, it's across the board. So we are also looking at the effect of the production of fish in the village tanks on their income and livelihoods. And with producing the fish products for the Angawati centers and for the schools, it's also women who are engaged in drying the fish and in packaging the fish that are used in these programs. So we are extremely interested to see how this plays out in Odisha and how we can move the experience from Odisha to Assam, where we already are working, and to other fish producing states in India, and thereby have the effect of fish for nourishing the millions in India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sakuntala. I think you have received a very good rating from the participants. So thank you so much. Congratulations. You spoke a very, very important thing about the micronutrient deficiency, how fish can address that. And specifically during COVID times, This is very, very important. The micronutrients like vitamin A, D are quite, and all of us know that people have been talking about micronutrients for immunity to address COVID. So this is very timely and appropriate. And Bangladesh initiated the micronutrient survey in 2011-12. India also completed micronutrient survey in 2017-18. India is also thinking about agri-nutrition policy, and many pathways you spoke about through your presentation will be quite insightful and useful. One of the participants also spoke that those who do not eat fish, what will happen? Now I would request Rajiv to speak about how they have been able to demonstrate that in a poor state, a poor Indian state like Odisha, and they have really made substantial progress. And if Rajiv, over to Rajiv. Rajiv? Hello? Rajiv? Rajiv, you are able to hear me?
Mr. Rajiv, I think is maybe facing a few issues. Maybe Basanji, we can
Debasis?
move ahead and then, yes.
Yes. Debasis, you are available?
Yeah, I am available. Am I audible to all? Okay.
Oh, yes, you are audible. I think you can also answer a lot of things and also share how through Ajim Premji along with the government of Odisha, it is a very exemplary partnership. I think whole world should be able to learn from your model. And specifically you have been doing and following food-based approach. So please share your thoughts, then we'll come back to Rajiv later.
Okay. Thank you, Basanji, and thank you all panelists. And this is a very interesting ways with workforce, especially women and children. Children are of course not part of workforce, but women definitely are part of workforce. Ajim Premji Philanthropic Initiative has initiated a program with Government of Odisha, and it started in 2018 June, and the society is implementing this program is under Panchayati Raj and Drinking Water Department, and the name of the society is Odisha Livelihoods Mission. I am leading this nutrition project across Odisha. So let's go to the next slide. So basically, if we look at the calorie requirement of any adult, it is roughly about 2,000 calories per day is required, and carbohydrates about 225 to 325 gram per day. Similarly, 46 to 20 gram per day protein, and fat is about 44 to 78 gram, and some 13 different types of vitamins and minerals of 17 types are required every day for an adult to work properly, to become healthy.
Hello?
All these things, yeah. Am I audible?
Yes. There is a little disruption, but now
so the next is, so if we see carbohydrate, protein and fat are quite required in major quantity, and other vitamin and minerals are required in small quantity. And if we see, we get carbohydrate from different fruits and vegetables. Proteins we get from eggs, poultry, seafoods, dairy products, soybean products. Similarly, fat from vegetable oils and fish oils and different nuts and seeds. If we compare 4 different fruits, banana, papaya, moringa and lemon, this is the chart which I have presented. Banana has highest potassium and papaya has highest vitamin A, and moringa is quite rich in vitamin C and iron, and lemon is combination of both potassium and vitamin C. These four fruits we are promoting in our project. So let's listen a little bit about our project now, which is implemented by Odisha Livelihood Mission. Next slide, please. So as we know, about 84% of women are dependent on agriculture in rural India, and about 47% of them are agriculture laborers. And there are actually 10 different types of, or 10 different food groups which adults require every day to get all those carbohydrate, protein, fats, vitamin, minerals. So these food groups are 10 types, and out of that, this nutrition project, which is implemented by Odisha Livelihood Mission, is focusing on meat, poultry, eggs, leafy vegetable, vitamin A rich vegetables, other fruits and other vegetables. So out of 10, 6 types of foods we are able to produce and consume. So how is it possible? Let's see. Let's go to the next slide. So we are actually promoting a Nutri garden at the backyard of any household. As you know, it is a very innovative solution to ensure nutritional security at household level. By putting a Nutri garden, one can meet the family consumption needs from the Nutri garden. It is vegetable, fruits, and we have included backyard poultry and goat in the Nutri garden. So it is providing both vegetable, fruits, and animal proteins in the form of egg and meat. The requirement is only 0.02 acre land or 2 decimal of land is required to develop this kind of garden. And fruits and vegetables are grown in vegetable organic means, and it can it is sufficient for the entire family needs, including the women and children of the household. And it is meeting the need of carbohydrate, protein, fiber, vitamin, mineral, whatever I have explained previous slides is available from this. Next slide, please. So, as I said, this purpose of this Nutri garden is to provide green vegetables and fruits to at least 5 members family, and here we are focusing on adults and girls, pregnant and lactating mothers, pregnant women and lactating mothers, and at least 4 or 5 member of the family is this nutrition garden is sufficient enough to provide them fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. We have taken some non-negotiable, that is, as it is consumption focused project and everybody has to consume the fruits and vegetables from their own backyard Nutri garden. So we have focused on no use of synthetic chemical fertilizer and pesticides. And we have also focused and we have made it non-negotiable that there should be no hybrid seeds, but there should be only local seeds or open pollinated seeds should be used, so that seed sovereignty or seed rights will be remaining with the household. They will not be market dependent. And every day one can expect 1 to 1.2 kg vegetables and fruits from the 0.2 acre or 2 decimal land. Next slide, please. So in the Nutri garden, as I said before, we are putting some 10 fruit plants, which includes 2 banana, 2 lemon plants, 3 papaya, and 3 drumstick, to cater to the need of the iron and all other deficiency symptom, which is general in women. Similarly, we are putting some 13 to 17 types of vegetable for 3 seasons. So we are providing vegetable seed mini kit initially to initiate the program, and subsequently it is the family will be getting the seeds from their own backyard and they will be continuing. So the 3 seasons, Kharif, Rabi and summer, the family initially is provided with seed and family is provided with fruit saplings. And we are creating education program, which we are calling PLLN, Participatory Learning Action, linking agriculture and natural resources to nutrition. On basically this awareness is about malnutrition, why malnutrition, and how to overcome this situation, and what are the means of doing such activities so that the malnourished members of the family, which includes the women and children and adults and girls, will not be falling back to that situation, is explained through this PLLN program. Actually, Odisha Livelihood Mission is having something around 3.5 lakh self-help groups spread across Odisha, and we are using that self-help group platform, and we are using these PLLN tools to educate the women SHG members to learn about this aspect and initiate the Nutri Garden, which includes both fruits and vegetable growing as well as backyard poultry and goat rearing. So PLLN is a platform, or PLLN is a tool which is helping the family to know about Nutri Garden and start the processes. So Azim Premji has supported in creating the nutrition vertical in Odisha Livelihood Mission, and this program has got government recognition, and the name of the program is now Mo Upakari Bagicha. It is a government approved program now in Odisha, and it has got a fee by getting further support from MGNREGS, and it is continuing. So can we go to the next slide, please? So as I said before, this program got started in 2018-19, yes. And in 2019-20, we got an award, as Mr. Bashankar has said, from Government of India, the best state livelihood mission to receive the Poshan Award from Outlook. Government of India Vice President has given this award. And in the past year itself, we could manage to reach to 100,000 nutrition gardens by 100,000 households we could establish. And looking at this scale of operation and success and efficiency, government decided that Mo Upakari Bagicha program will not be operating in 107 blocks only, but it will spread to 314 blocks. I mean, all the blocks of Odisha. And this year we are jumping to all blocks with additional support from MGNREGS. There is a detailed government guidelines, manuals, which has been circulated from government. So the convergence between OLM and MGNREGS society is now being designed, planned, and going to start very soon. In next 1 week or so, it will be across Odisha will be starting. And by the end of this financial year, we are hopeful of reaching to 500,000 nutrition gardens. That will really suffice the need of malnourishment across Odisha who are suffering, as the Christina and others have already said. 1/3 of our population are suffering from malnutrition. So this particular program is going to help all those families. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think our previous panelist, Devasis, you have a lot of participants have appreciated your presentation. So thank you so much. Congratulations to you. This is a perfect example about product, policy, and platform. So here the product is a food-based approach, diversified diet, and interestingly non-pesticide, organic. So very, very interesting, important thing to know. And India is also planning for a pesticide management bill. So your thing will contribute to national policy also. SHG platform is unique. Generally, people used to work in Anganwadi center. So using women self-help group is important platform. And you are able to scale it up with partnership with government and influence government policy, government budget. So it is a very important, and you have a donor which is also homegrown. So very, very important presentation, Devasis. Thank you so much. Many things to learn.
I just want to add one single line. Government of India, Government of Odisha has announced for COVID-19 situation some 17,000 crores support for livelihood and other activities, including 500 crores support for nutrition garden to establish a nutrition garden in 500,000 households. So that's really a big support which we are getting from Government of Odisha. Thank you.
I think within a short span, this is an exemplary model how you are able to scale it up and influence public policy and influence budget. Nutrition budget influencing itself is a very, very difficult thing. People hardly do it in 10 years. So you have been able to do it. So many things people can learn. The more important thing is in India, the complementary feeding for children between 6 to 24 months is less than 10%. And people don't get a minimum 4 food groups, and you spoke about 6 food groups are available. That is also very exemplary accomplishment. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will now request Rahul ji, you are available now?
Yes.
Okay.
I was using some network, so yeah.
No problem. Since Devashish has highlighted many things, so you may not cover those, and you can share about your story about migrants and story about policy and many other things. You have been pioneering that in India. So over to Rajiv. Yes, please go ahead. Hello.
Yes. So can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ecociate, for taking this opportunity to share our experience. So just to introduce, Ajim Premji Philanthropic Initiative is a very new in this sector, and we are the 5th largest philanthropic body in the world. So we started the partnership with the government of Odisha to reduce the malnutrition in 10 years. So that is our partnership with the government of Odisha. So I will share about this thing, and now my previous speaker Devashish, he has shared about the program of Nutri Garden with Odisha Livelihood Mission. So that is one of our program in Odisha. So let me focus. What are the challenges of the, because now we need to discuss about the workforce, and in this pandemic situation, we know how we all are struggling with our workforce. And if these workforce are the belongs to the poor section of the society, they have all these problems related to human capital, natural capital, financial capital, physical and social capital. So everything is mentioned here. I am not going to the details of each and every point, but we know how these people are struggling with this thing. So now we need to understand, if we want to strengthen the workforce, so we need to focus both 1,000 days and the life cycle approach. So 1,000 days means starting from conception till 2 years of age. But we have the adolescents.
Sorry to intrude, Rajiv ji. Sorry to intrude. I think your screen is not shared, your presentation. Can you please try again?
Yeah, that's why I asked that. Can you all see my screen? So I got that Devashish said yes, he can able to see my screen. So that's why. Just a minute.
People have been asking for that.
Yes, I think it is coming up.
Yes, very good.
It's yeah. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So that's why our focus is for both 1,000 days and life cycle approach. You can see from this slide that we have to focus everywhere. So in that context, we have a MOU with the government of Odisha, and these are the 10 different departments which we have identified. Devashish was sharing about the work of Panchayat Raj department. that is Odisha Livelihood Mission belongs to Panchayat Raj Department. So apart from Panchayat Raj Department, we have identified SC/ST Development Department, Women and Child Welfare Department, Health and Family Welfare Department, Agriculture Department, Food Supplies Department, Fisheries and Animal Resources Department, RD Department, and Sports and Youth Affairs. So these are the 10 different departments which we have identified, and identified various schemes. So you can see all those things. So 65 different schemes we have identified out of all these 10 departments, be it state sponsored scheme, be it central government sponsored scheme. So we have categorized under these things, three things. I think most of you know about this thing: nutrition specific, nutrition sensitive, and governance related issues. And we thought to focus all these areas, all these verticals. So now I am sharing few things. So the first one is the dietary diversity program, which we have started with one NGO in 2 districts of the state. So there, that particular NGO piloted this PLLN and NutriGarden, and they could able to demonstrate things with 62,000 households. So as Basant Bhai, as you were sharing, if we want to scale up anything with the government system, we need to demonstrate in scale in that particular state. So that's the that was our learning when we demonstrated this thing in Odisha. Then Odisha Livelihood came forward to scale up this thing with the SHG system all across the state. So there was a need to establish this is a new thing, and if they want to continue and sustain this thing, they need to establish a dedicated vertical. That's why Odisha dedicated vertical within the Odisha Livelihood Mission. Now Devashish has already shared how that things has moved from 107 blocks to another 314 blocks. That means all across the Odisha. So this is one of the program which we are doing. The second one is this CRACE. So because malnutrition, if we want to focus on 1000 days, we need to focus on this CRACE. So that's why we have started with 150 CRACE in 5 districts of Odisha. Now WCD department and SC/ST department, they are now going it to scale up all across the state, depending on the need and fund availability. Then to strengthen the Panchayat Raj system, we have done some pilot with the Panchayat Raj system and how to strengthen the Gram Sabha so that people they aware about their entitlements and they can demand their needs. So right now, suppose these migrant people from outside came to the state. So there was around 5 lakh household they returned from other states due to this COVID-19 situation. So government is focusing heavily on MGNREGA, how they will get the their daily wage labor from. So this is the program which we have demonstrated in one area. Now government is thinking how to ensure this thing all across. Then we have used our transgender communities to create awareness about IYCF practices. So that is also in the piloting stage that we are doing in Raigada. Then there are tribal residential schools. So all these young girls or boys who are there, they need to understand about the importance of various thematic of the malnutrition issues. So we are doing this program with the tribal residential schools all across with the support of UNFPA, and that we are doing for last 1.5 years. Then as Mission Shakti is one of the women doing the women empowerment program. So with them we are doing one program that is in pilot stage. Soon it is going to start. And these are the 2 programs. Government is having take home ration program going on, and how to further improve the quality of the thing. So these are the things we are doing. So one of the insight from this government engagement is, so it is very much important to demonstrate thing in the same state so that it can be replicated or scale up by the government system. This is one of our learning coming. And government is, we can see government and the bureaucrats all are committed here. So if we can show something, then it is very well can be taken up in the system, which there are 2 examples. One is OLM dietary diversity program. Second one is the CRACE program. And these are the various opportunity now we are having. We need to focus all those things. So SCG as an important platform we can use for various kind of thing. So that is one thing, and we need to have end-to-end kind of thing. So for the PVTG segment, for the hard to reach area, SC/ST department is now planning to do all these types of program with a special those things. Then for this employment generation, MGNREJ department is focusing heavily how to do all those things. So all those things are happening. So if we focus all those things, and definitely we can improve our workforce. So these are some of our learning that I would like to share. So I am done. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Rajiv. I think many people have been asking for your presentation, so you should be able to share that. So thank you so much.
Yes.
One thing I want to tell you that Rajiv spoke about a particular district or a particular vulnerable community. For decades, we used to hear about the starvation deaths there. And another thing, into 2020 Global Nutrition Report clearly focuses about equity, clearly focuses about social justice. And Ajim Premji Philanthropic Initiative in principle tried to address those in their program. So that is very, very commendable job. So thank you so much. And you spoke about CRACE. Whenever we plan anything on nutrition for industrial worker, so definitely we plan for CRACE. But more important is you planned and executed and delivered, demonstrated that CRACE across many districts. So that is also another important, because that is an enabling provision which will drive good workforce nutrition. Convergence with 10 departments is unimaginable. Convergence with 2 departments is difficult in South Asia. So you have been able to show that. So workforce nutrition requires convergence. Certainly convergence with Ministry of Labor, convergence with Health, ICDS, and other line departments. So you are able to do it that I think everybody should be able to learn. And thank you so much for taking this initiative. And if you combine your presentation with Devashish, I think it itself is a model for whole of India, not only for India, for many parts of the world. So we will hear more from you and Devashish later. Now I would request go to the south of India, JVG, and he will have very interesting thing about the farmers and specifically women smallholder farmer. Over to JVG. JVG?
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay,
just
very good.
Can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Basanda, for introducing me. And I'll be basically sharing 3 stories with you today. So one is about Tanager, and one is about what we're trying to do in Africa, in Burkina Faso, a small story from there, what we're doing with women. And then, of course, as you said, from southern part of India, what we're doing in AP in our pilot projects with nutrition. So very briefly about Tanager. So Tanager has been working in India since 2009 to help smallholder farmers to increase yields, improve access to markets, and address the barriers, especially with women, and looking at improve women's empowerment. In addition, we also believe that agriculture gains need to translate into better food security and also better nutrition for the households and the families. One thing which I keep getting, because I'm new in Tanager, so everybody asks me, what is Tanager? So that is the first story which I want to share. So if you look at the invitation we got today, so it says JVG Krishnamurthy, Networking and Eco Dev Tanager. So one of my friends called me and said, JVG, there is a typo in the invitation. Instead of manager, they put Tanager. So Tanager basically is nothing but so let me tell you very briefly about 1 minute what is Tanager. So basically birds from the species of finches, which are part of the Tanager family, are especially well known for their varied beaks, which evolved over time to perform specific functions. Some of them even used twigs, sticks, and cactus spines, which are locally available, as tools. So the Tanager name draws directly from the story and the inherent nature of these birds. It relates both to the ability to adapt in order to create solutions and upward and forward movement by taking flight. It is this philosophy which drives us to look at what is locally available and make good use of it, right from crop identification to production to household nutrition. And then how can we make sure farmer families can eat sufficient quantities of nutritious food from available local produce? So that's what we're looking at going forward. So I thought I'll just share that story. So it's a bird, very, 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 jugadu bird, you can say in Indian language. So it takes care of what is available around it and uses them as tools and finds a solution. Going forward, so this is just to give you, so I need not talk much about this slide because all of you, all my previous colleagues in the panel were talking about this. So, but if you look at the kind of places we work, especially the development organizations like us, so we work in poor settings. So I see 3 phases in different households where we go in. So one is there food? Is there food to eat? So is there food at all to eat? So basically people will ask, kuch khane ko hai? So is there any food to eat? And from there in phase 2, it comes to, is there enough food to eat? So that is phase 2 because you are sufficient enough. And then the other thing is there, now once enough food is there good food to eat? So in local language, good food is nutritious food. So we are starting from, so phase 1, where is there food at all, to is there good food? So that is nutrition at the household level. But now we are going one step ahead with workforce nutrition. We're talking about working population and working settings and working environment. So right from corporate to industrial to farming. So everywhere we have different kinds of working population, and how do we kind of take care of these nutritional needs? So that's what we're talking about in this slide. And as you said, the government of India also has come out with so many initiatives. We have so many schemes across different organizations and departments, as was shared before. So we have this Fit India movement, Poshan Abhiyan, Eat Right India. So all these things kind of, there was a buzz. I saw this buzz mostly happening in social media and the literate population at elite level. But we need to create a groundswell. I feel we need to create a pull from the communities at the grassroots levels and advocate for the production and consumption of healthy and nutritious foods, leading to a foundation of preventive healthcare and laying a groundwork for optimal development for pregnancy through childhood. So that's very, very important, I feel. And of course, we know that people come from different cultural backgrounds, different traditional backgrounds, and every state is different culturally and through food habits. So we cannot have an all-in-one solution to nutrition. So we know this. So that's why, so wherever we go, so we have to look at what is locally available, what is the availability of these nutritious foods leading to preventive health, and trying to find localized solutions. So that's going to be our important thing as we go along. And also, I just wanted to stress on this point. It's not just eat right, but at the base of the pyramid levels, we're trying to encourage people to eat sufficient as well in most of the cases. And all household members have access to food they need to thrive. And this way, Tanager has been working with local communities to promote adoption of good agricultural practices and its endeavor to improve quality of life of farmers. It's been exploring new ways to intervene and looking at behavior change, advocacy, messaging that will benefit the well-being of all household members. And the second story I wanted to share very briefly about what we are doing in Africa, in Burkina Faso. So this is a 5-year project we are doing. It's called Women's Poultry Project to Improve Income and Nutrition. It's funded by the Gates Foundation. and it's designed to improve the nutritional status of women and children in rural Burkina Faso by strengthening women's economic empowerment through increased poultry production. So we're not just talking vegetables or farming. Here we're talking about poultry, but it's a model working beautifully. And more poultry means more income, and more income means better nutrition, and the entire household is healthy. And coming down south or coming down to India, so we're doing one such intervention. So basically, so we're doing a market readiness program in Andhra Pradesh. It reaches out to vulnerable communities. When I say vulnerable communities, we're talking about different kinds of groups coming from tribal and non-tribal. So this study which we did in two places. We piloted in two places. One is a tribal area in Anantapur, and the other one is a tribal area in Srikakulam and a non-tribal area in Anantapur. So the food diversity is so vast. So the different foods, different culture, different eating habits, and different income levels, and different superstitions. So it's very, very insightful. And we were looking at basically women who are engaged in farming. And also it gives a different perspective to us, because looking at various communities, obviously it highlights variation in design and programs, and how we have to design our programs going forward and meeting our objectives in these programs. So as you see, so we don't have a separate nutrition program, but nutrition and gender are underlying things for all the programs we do across our project locations in the world. So as I said, we did this food environment analysis to understand the existing food habits, access to food, and the local understanding on nutrition. And these findings are going to help us in developing training in social and behavior change activities in pilot communities to promote purchasing, growing, and eating nutritious food for the benefit of the entire household. So what do we do? So as I have seen, so many of you are working in this area. Of course, nutrition is there all through, so in all these years, but we are specifically talking about workforce nutrition. So this is taking one level ahead, we can say. And how do I kind of take care of all the local stakeholders working there on board and working with them? So we'll use FPOs and local private sector actors as a platform for delivering these activities. And the findings also highlighted the need to focus on promoting nutritious foods and food preparation techniques, especially because lots of people, they know that leafy vegetable is very, very nutritious, but they say it takes time. That's why we're sometimes, if we have to go to work early in the morning, I know it takes time. I have to prepare everything in the night and keep it ready for me to cook in the morning. So if I'm not able to do that, I don't cook that. I cook something easy and nice like rasam or something, which is a local thing. And they eat that, which is not very nutritious, and they go to the field to work. So coming out with, so food preparation techniques, which will kind of reduce their time burden, especially with women. So that is going to help them a lot. And the study also showed that intra-household food allocation needs to be addressed. Basically, women reported eating less food compared to men in the household. So typically, culturally also, women first feed their children and their husband and the in-laws, and then they eat last culturally in some cultures, not everywhere. In the tribal belts, it's not that. So if they have this much of food, if there are 4 people, they exactly make it 4 portions and they eat. And if children are not able to eat that, then the elders take from that portion. So there are different cultural and traditional practices which people use. And it's very interesting to see this and learn and come out with our strategies. And so the objective of Tanager's work is to ensure that the food system is equipped to achieve better nutritional outcomes for households and communities. And we see that these households work together, ensuring that good nutrition is available for all members, and good nutrition for all these farmer families means that there is better efficiency, there's better productivity, and lowering of absenteeism. Of course, they are not going to a factory, they're going to field. That means they are able to go regularly to the field instead of missing it, and therefore improve their economic potential and be healthy. So that's what it is. And I see from all the previous presentations that we have lots of things where we can collaborate and learn from each other learn from each other's successes and failures. And if you see, we also work and promote organic farming and diversified diet. So that's going to be a part of our program strategy now. And we work with the Tribal Development Agency. We work with Society for Elimination of Rural and Poverty. And then we work with the local governments and local FPOs and NGOs. And we also kind of work with different kinds of platforms, like digital platforms are going to be the way going forward. We work with FICCI, ASSOCHAM, CIA kind of platforms. And I see another platform today, so Workforce Nutrition Alliance coming from GAIN. So it's going to be an interesting and exciting area to kind of work going forward and collaborate and learn from each other. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Javiji. I think very rightly you started defining your organization. Adaptability is key in these COVID times. So we can learn from that. You spoke about macro linkage, and very rightly you spoke that we need to be locally grounded before we are connected nationally or globally, because all our evidences, models, and islands of excellences should come from the ground, which will influence the public policy. And your focus on tribal, focus on public-private partnership is also very, very important. And you spoke rightly about the women nutrition. That is very, very key. And very important thing that women consume the food at the last. That is very important, unless you address that. We'll hear from you more. And I would request now, Saroj, since you spoke last time, because of the time factor, you might, I would request you to speak within 5 minutes. Saroj, is it okay?
Okay, yeah, I'll just take it to the, I think we have heard a lot. So, okay, yes. So I'll quickly move on to my presentation. Okay, so is it visible now on the screen?
Yes. No.
Okay, thank you. So we have heard a lot about the different kind of products that are being either produced or made available from the context of the food groups. But when we look at how to make it available on the ground, and even if we do a lot of communication and people come to know about it, what we came across as a typical factor here is the access to this food, and therefore the need for developing supply chains as we are looking into different food groups. And in that context, this tea garden was a very typical experience where these are like established places, people living within the estates for quite some time, but from the point of access to food products, there's such a big gap. So the objective here, like stated by the GAIN, and what we wanted to do there was to enhance the demand, access, and consumption of safe and nutritious food. And in the context that these tea garden workers are referred to as the tea tribes in Assam, and they are communities who migrated to these places during the British times, and typically coming from states like Jharkhand, Odisha, Bengal, and that. So let's say 100 years before this happened, and then there are about 600,000 tea estate workers. That means that many people who migrated to those areas. And the very typical local, if I just put it on the map, so the northeast corner of the state, of the country, and then between these two places, Dibrugarh and Tinsukia, that's the area where we did this work. And these people, very typical to this tea tribe is, they have been working within the tea estate for quite almost this many years, but their integration with the local population has not happened for different social regions. So therefore, the access of these communities to the outside of world is relatively less. So coming to very quickly to the story about what we try to look at is, so how do you arrive at some kind of a change in the process of making things available? So we tried a bottom-up approach where we started looking at how these communities are what they consume, what are they consuming, what are they not consuming, where do they access these products, and therefore found some gaps to come out with something like a food basket that we thought would be can be made available to them under this nutrition for providing the nutrition food. So the fortified cooking oil was one product which was thought of as important because it was consumed by every household. Liquid milk was something which we looked at because it is not available in locally in Assam. It is not so much there, so therefore it is all available in small. I mean, the quantities are not as much available, and people do not have the habit of having milk, or they use those powdered, let's call those whiteners, for which they thought was milk, and of course the pulses. So these are the products that we thought of looking at. And where did they access it? So what we found that women who are actually the tea pluckers, tea leaf pluckers, their access is at the local, the residential line shop. That means there is a cluster of 50 or 100 households, and in that there will be a few shops, small, although quite small, but that's the access point. So what we thought is our intervention has to interact with these line shops to bring about change. And this grid I won't like to explain in that sense, but I'm just trying to show that how complex was the supply chain, that from the food groups that moved from a bigger town to a smaller town to the tea estate, but there was no supplies going into the tea estate. The wholesalers had no clue about what is happening in the tea estate. The retailers connect with the township. So this complexity of relationships and behavior within the trade was important for us to understand how to intervene. So we needed a solution which was like to mainstream the availability through a organized supply chain. That means the supply chain has to work like the way what we see in our cities and towns, where at least they are organized and there is a system that works. So what we looked at with the wholesale and stockist was how to create that relationship of these wholesalers, stockists who operate from small town with the shopkeepers who are within the residential lines, and therefore that relationship had to be created, and therefore all those elements of supply chain like the route plans, the supply cycles, the stock volumes, the minimum order quantities, all of that had to be worked upon. In context of the retailers, what we found, I mean, when we did that whole survey of the tea gardens, we found this we mapped around more than 40 retailers which were worth, like, I mean, they had the certain volume of business to intervene with. Of that, we selected about 14 of them, and they were reaching out to about 1,400 households. And we had put some criteria about how to select them after understanding what is there on the ground, because initially we had no clue about what was there. So
Saroj, maybe I will request you to take a pause. So no, you finish it.
Okay. So what led to the next element was how to intervene with the retailers. And the retailers had to be then, what we saw was they were not following any of the typical retailing rules, and they were having their own small order quantities, very inefficient supply systems, because of which their margins were low, they were not growing. And there is a whole element of credit cycles which was quite inefficient there. So we had to look at all these components to move forward.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Saroj. Value chain message is very, very important, because that we didn't cover in earlier. So your message is very important. Actually, we have only few minutes left. Whether we can stretch for another 5 minutes, please try to.
Okay, I'll just do one quick slide. And so this is all sales that has happened. And this slide is basically talking about the selling proposition, where we are talking about supplies that have happened even in the COVID lockdown situation. That means the system is working even when there is the market restrictions, and we made it work. Otherwise, things was not working. And the important element which we were able to establish is women were able to access this food themselves and not necessarily dependent on other family members. And that worked for us. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. We have a few questions. So I would request, one question is there for Dr. Shakuntala. How to diversify our fish production? What will be different products? I would request, because of the lack of time, maybe it should be like elevator pitch. In one sentence you can tell. Then I have another question which audience has asked for Mr. Rao. Dr. Shakuntala.
So diversification in terms of production systems.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, what Worldfish has introduced and now being copied by many development agencies is we have introduced a nutrition sensitive approach to fish production systems. So with an entry point of fish production, either inland aquaculture or also coastal fisheries. We've added to that homestead vegetable production, and with a focus on where there is lack of land, vegetables on the pond dikes, and a focus on nutrient-rich vegetables, for example, in Bangladesh and Odisha also, orange sweet potato, where the households eat both the leaves as well as the roots. And with that, promotion of essential nutrition messages and essential hygiene messages with a focus on the first 1,000 days of life, and considerations to intra-household food consumption.
Very, very good. Very, very important, Shakuntala. And I have
have an integrated approach to production, just with using the fish production of diverse species as an entry point.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very, very well articulated. One difficult question, I don't know how Mr. Rahul will be able to answer. People are asking the question, how to build convergence? Can you tell in one sentence, because of the lack of time only?
Yes. So, Ajim Premji Philanthropic Initiative is here in Odisha when our Honorable Chief Minister has invited us. So, he is basically focusing everything, and he said that we should be having a convergence model here. So, that's why we have identified 10 departments, and Odisha Nutrition Action Plan was launched by the Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha. So, that's why the importance of this program is felt by all these 10 departments. So that's why it is easier for the convergence. But still there are challenges, but we are trying to manage these things with the cooperation from everyone.
Very, very important. Leadership, agenda of action and political commitment is a key driver. Very important message and very nicely presented. Before I say, maybe I request Christine, you have been hearing from beginning to end. You have any last comment to share?
Thank you, Mr. Carr, for the opportunity. No, just to say that I was really encouraged to hear all the really great efforts and activities that are going on, not only just in India, but in so much of the region. Really happy to hear about Tanager and APPI, which are fairly new to me. Worldfish, well known, others. So we welcome you to join. We need as many good leaders and thinkers as you all are to join the Workforce Nutrition Alliance, and encourage you to do so, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your open invitation. I think everybody would like to join, and it is all about fighting malnutrition together. Devasis, you have any quick comment? One sentence.
I think the success story behind our partnership with philanthropy and government of Odisha is understanding the need and making a plan, properly execute it, and all leaders' commitment, as well as starting from Chief Minister to the grassroots level workers. So everybody here is showing their commitment. So commitment to me is very, very important.
Very,
And
very,
commitment by
very,
donors,
very well.
commitment by everybody
Yes.
is quite important.
Very well articulated. Thank you so much. Javiji, one elevator pitch in one sentence.
Yeah, one sentence. I feel great starting. So we just started. So this is our initial steps. So long way to go. So
Very good.
thank you very much for taking this first step in bringing all the stakeholders together. And I look forward to meeting you all more and more.
Thank you. Thank you so
more
much.
things happening in this direction.
Saroj, you have anything, any perspective
Yeah, I think
for the participant?
yeah, I can see that there is so much to do, and there is no one organization that can do all that, or just a few. So a lot of collaborative approach is required, both, and it cannot be just government or X or Y. It has to be the stakeholders, including the private sector, and how this has to be become a common language and a common understanding is where we have to work on. I mean, that's how I see it.
Oh, very, very important. Common language, common understanding, common narrative is very important, because many people understand workforce nutrition in many ways. So I think there is a overwhelming response from the participant. We don't have much time. They have been asking for presentation. So you can share. Some people are asking about a recorded video, recorded document. You can also share that. And Ecociate is very, very good in diligent also in sharing. And last time they shared the report. Only I have to tell that we discussed about product, we discussed about policy, we discussed about platform, we discussed about program, and we discussed about nutrition focus interventions, nutrition sensitive interventions. But largely we discussed about nutrition sensitive interventions, but also we talked about focus on past 1000 days of life. So this is the beauty of this workforce nutrition webinar. Many miles to go before we sleep. Thank you so much for pioneering this in a country like India, Bangladesh, and South Asia and Asia. We'll take this forward, and definitely we'll take this forward to the policy domain and also political domain, because India is home to, and it is called South Asian enigma, because people don't know why this is malnutrition is there, in spite of there is growth, productivity, and GDP growth. So we'll try to break this enigma together, and we'll fight it together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Kar. Yeah, you were saying something, Christian?
No, I was just saying thank you. Sorry.
Okay. But I think, this entire session of more than 90 minutes has been really very, very overwhelming for us. And from our core of our heart, we would like to thank all the speakers, especially Mr. Basant Kar, who fantastically organized this entire thing. Then Dr. Christine, your contributions, Dr. Shakuntala's fantastic views, especially for bringing their learnings from the global stage. I think that was very, very relevant for us. And nonetheless, Mr. Rajiv, Mr. Krishnamurthy, Mr. Devashis, and Mr. Saroj, the learnings from your own field experiences were absolutely fantastic for us. I practically thank this august audience for being there, for listening to us, for continuing this fantastic journey together. And the learning was actually immense for us. So we would also like to thank our partners, Welthungerhilfe, Birla Institute of Management Technology, Tanager International, and Odisha Livelihoods Mission for all their support and collaboration. And last but not the least, I would thank the team behind all this, the Ecociate team. So Sudhir, thanks Dheeraj, thanks Diksha for all the support that they have been provided. And so we promise to come back to you. And of course, there had been queries that for sending all these presentations. So we would definitely send you the link to the video that we have, the recording of this entire webinar. So you can be rest assured for that. And so we will be coming back again because Ecociate as an organization, it's a knowledge-based organization. We would love to come back to you in different topics. So ranging from agribusiness to enterprise to nutrition. So we are all there. And thank you. Thank you so much. So we would like to close here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirmala. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.